All right, this is Coach Williams, and we are going to go over the review for Chapter 8. Now, this is just the review of the spiraled in, part of the test or portion of the test. We have already gone over the review for the homework quiz, or homework check, their quiz in class. Those answers have already been given out to everybody, so we at least wanted to do this part on video and get that out for you guys. This is going to be the spiraled in stuff from the previous chapters. Because we only went over the first few sections in Chapter 8 for this test, we are going to have a majority of the test that's not going to be Chapter 8. We wanted to spiral some things in from previous chapters, make sure you're up to speed on all that, and don't forget how to do some of these things. This also is going to be a kind of a tips and tricks and calculators and everything that you need to know for STAR testing as well, because these questions that we're going to go over are actually STAR type questions. So you'll see these on your STAR test coming up this year, these type questions on your STAR test. So this is going to be kind of a twofold thing. You're going to get some extra practice in here for the Chapter 8 test, which is tomorrow, and then you'll get some practice in and some tips and tricks for the STAR test. So starting in the first one, they're wanting to test our knowledge on some terminology, and that is what is domain and what is range. And the domain is what? What values are we talking about when we say the domain? The x values, okay? So that's the x values, and whenever it says the range, we're talking about what? The y values, exactly, okay? So we're talking about the y values when in range and x and domain. So we're talking about when we see the y values, this is the y-axis here. We're talking about all the values between here and, here and there. All right, so we're talking about, this is my range, or y values. And when we're talking about the domain, we're talking about all the values from here to here. That is my domain value. When we see this, we have solid dots, and the solid dots means that we can be equal to, and so we're looking for, initially here, we're going to say, let's talk about the domain first. I have to be between a 1 and an 8. So x has to be bigger than 1 and less than 8, so if it's got to be bigger than, it looks like that, but we can have the equal to sign, right? And then it has to be less than or equal to this 8, so we're looking for this in one of our domain answers. And the thing, I'm going to start talking to you a little bit, mix this in. The thing that we're going to see with our STAR type questions is they're normally, with any state level question actually, they're going to give you a 50-50. If there's 4 answer choices, you're going to see them give you 2 bogus answers basically. 2 bogus answers and then 2 answers that are close to the answer. One's the right answer and one's not, but they're pretty similar, so it's you have to be sure you know what you're doing. But at least you've gotten it narrowed down to 2 questions, which we call the 50-50. You got a 50-50 chance to get it right. And so if you're looking here, there's only 2 answer choices that have x greater than 1, less than 8, and that is what? C? B and D, actually. B and D. C is reversed, and A is reversed, so those are not going to work. All right, then let's look at our range, and our range has to be, and if you look at this, again, this moves in the positive direction for X. This is moving in the positive direction for Y, so I have to be greater than, greater than 2, or equal to, and I have to be less than or equal to 6. So Y has to be greater than or equal to 2, less than or equal to 6, and you'll see that one is on number or letter option answer choice B. Okay, this one has it reversed, and so that one can't be the answer either. All right, so that is the answer to number 1, and we'll move on to number 2. On number 2, it's asking us to find, or it says that the line has a slope of -5/3 and a y-intercept of 6. This is my slope, that's the M, and this is my B, or the y-intercept. And anytime they give us slope-intercept, we know we're probably going to have to put this in slope-intercept form. Does anybody know what slope-intercept form is? Y equals mx plus b. Very good. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so if that's the case, these are not in that form. We're going to have to change them. All right, so we're going to have to move some things around. I'm going to get us started on some of these and see what happens. So if I start to move this 5x across, then that means I'm going to have 3y equals negative 5x minus 18. And just notice here, we're going to start noticing some things that are similar to what we're looking for, right? Remember, this is what we wanted in. That's my m and that's my b. So we're looking for y equals negative 5/3 x plus 6. We're looking for that right there. That negative 5/3 x plus 6. If I divide this by 3, divide that by 3, and divide that by 3, this goes away and I get my negative 5/3, but this becomes what? Negative 6, and is it what we're looking for? No, we need a positive 6, so F is off the list. And if you think about it, right here, I've got a negative 3, and you think, oh, well, wait a second. Negative 18 divided by negative 3 gives me a positive 6. That's what I'm looking for right there. But when I move this 5x across, I have a negative 3y equals a negative 5x, x. Whenever I put my negative 3 over that, that doesn't give me my negative 5/3. It gives me a positive. So that one doesn't work either. This one is just completely wrong because my 5 sitting out on the end when I divide it by 3 doesn't give me the b that I'm looking for, so that can't be it. We're thinking it's j, but let's confirm it. Move the 5x across. 3y equals negative 5x plus 18. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Those will become a 1. That's the slope I'm looking for. That becomes a 6, and that 6 is what I'm looking for B. So J is my answer. All right, so this one's just simply doing a little algebra, changing from one form to another, changing from standard form to slope-intercept form right there. Okay? Let's move on to number 3. On number 3, which equation represents the line that passes through the points 5, 4, and negative 5 and 0? And the first thing that you're looking at this, a test-taking strategy would be, I've got 4 answer choices, I've got a couple points, just plug them in. That's the first thing I'm going to think of here. Can I just plug these in real quick and determine my answer without having to do a lot of calculations, we'll say. All right, so if I'm going to do that first, so let's try plugging in. So we're going to plug in first and just see. If I plugged in a 5 for x right here, okay, so I'll plug a 5 in for x, does it spit out a 4? Because remember, these are just coordinates, and it's an input value and an output value. So if I plug the x in, I should get the y value. If I plug in a 5, 5 over 5 becomes a 1, so it leaves me with 4. 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 is not 4, right? This y is supposed to equal 4 when I plug a 5 in, and it doesn't. So this one can't be the answer because it doesn't even work for one of the points. Remember, we got to test both points because when we're given 2 points, it might work for one but not for both. So let's check both of them. On the next one, we do the same thing. 5 times 5 would be 25 plus 2 is 27, and 27 is not what y is supposed to equal. Y is supposed to equal 4. So that one doesn't work, right? And I'm going to show you a couple of ways to solve this in just a second too. But we've got this next one. We've got y equals 2 over 5x. If I plugged in my 5 right there, 5 over 5 becomes a 1. 2 plus 2 equals 4. So this one actually checks out for that point. Let's see if it does for the other one. If I did a negative 5, then that makes this a negative 1, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Plus 2 would be a 0, so C is my answer. All right, and I could check D and know that it's not going to be the right one. Now, there's another way to solve this mathematically. We could, or algebraically, we could use the 2-point slope formula and see if we could find out what the slope would be. And if we can find out what the slope would be, we can match the slope up to the equation. And so if I did that, I would take and just make one of these points number 1 and one of them number 2, and I would do my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y'all remember this? Slope is equal to that. So then my slope is equal to, we'll make this point 2. So negative 5, 0 is my y value. 0 minus 4 over what? Negative 5 minus 5. Okay, 0 minus 4, negative 5 minus 5. And it doesn't matter the order. If you switch the order, that's fine, as long as you started with the same point at both times. This is going to equal a negative 4 over a negative 10. What does that equal? Reduce down, the negatives cancel, and that's the same thing as 2 over 5. So I'm looking for a slope with 2 over 5, and right there would be my slope that matches it. So that's another way I could have solved this problem. Let me give you a third way to do it. Okay, we plugged it in. We found the slope. That's 2 ways to solve. Let's go to our calculator. And remember that on the STAR test, your calculator is going to be your best friend. Okay? You're going to hear me say that quite often. Now, there's 4 equations, and I'd have to do this 4 times, but I'm going to just do it on the one we know is correct, just to show you that you could get this pretty quickly. If I'm going to put this equation in, and I'm using the 2/5, I either need to use the fraction option here or put in parentheses. I'm just going to put in parentheses to show you how to do that. So I put the fraction in parentheses, then I would put my x, and then plus 2. Okay, so now I've put in my equation 2/5 x plus 2. And then, watch this, I could go to my graph, and I could see, well, does negative 5 and 0 look like it works? Well, right here on the graph, let me darken this up just a little bit on the screen here. I can see that right there on the graph, I've got a negative 5 and 0 looks like. If I trace it and go back to it, this is one way. You'll see that I have a negative 5 and 0. That's one of the points on this graph, on this line. If I go over here to 5, I should get 4 for the y value. So I'm walking along here, get out here to 5, and look right there. 5 and 4, they also work. Now, this is probably a more tedious way to do it, but once I have the equation in, I can also go to the table. So go second graph and look at the table. And watch this. When I plug a 5 in, I get 4. If I go over here and go up to a negative 5, slowly because my calculator's not that fast, I get a 0. So I can look at this table and find all the points that are on this graph of this line, right? And those 2 points should be in my list. So that's another way you could go in and solve this problem, okay? All right, let's go look at number 4. Number 4, Michelle measured her resting... Turn this back up here. Michelle measured her resting pulse rate by counting the number of heartbeats for a duration of 1 minute. She recorded the number of heartbeats every 10 seconds in the table below. Which function represents Michelle's number of heartbeats after t seconds? Now, again, I can just plug in values and see if I get what I'm supposed to, because if you think about it, this is my x and that's my y. These are like coordinates, right? These are like ordered pairs. I plug in this, I should get that. Plug in that, I should get that, right? All the way down the list. So I can plug in and find out what this is supposed to be. I could also find out what the slope should be by measuring what my change in x is. What's my change in x and what's my change in y? And I could do it that way. So there's multiple ways to do this. I could also plug this into the calculator in my stat button, put in both my lists, ask for it to calculate my linear regression, ax plus b, and it would give me what I should have for my equation down here. All right, I'm just going to take the first approach because this one's pretty simple. I'm going to just plug in a 10 and see if I get 11. If I plug in a 10 right here, 10 times 10 is 100 plus 11 does not equal 11. It equals 111. So that can't be my answer. So right now I'm just taking the plug-in approach. All right, on this one right here, 11 times 10 is 110, plus 10 is 120. That again does not equal 11. That one won't work. 11 over 10 times 10. So if I put a 10 right here, the 10s would cancel. What would I end up with? 11. Ooh, this one looks like it could be it. If I plugged in a 20, then that would be 2 over 1. So 2 times 11 would be 22. So this one looks like this is the one that's supposed to be. And obviously I can check the last one. 11 times 10 is 110. That doesn't equal 11, so that can't be it. So that's one of the approaches I could take, just plugging it in. I'd find out that H is my answer. If I wanted to go in and put in the information in my stat, go to stat. Whoops, wrong one. Go to stat. I could go edit my list. Right now I've got a few things in there, so let me go clear those out. All right, so I could put in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. I could arrow over here and I could put in 11, 22. Uh-oh, my 11 didn't take. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66. I could go back to stat, calculate, and go to linear regression and hit enter. When I do that, I should end up with my AX plus B means that I need 1.1 X, but isn't 11 over 10 the same thing as 1.1? So that's the same thing as 11 over 10. So that would have to be, there is no B, right? B is 0. So there is no B on that one. So H would have been your answer on this as well. Okay, so the question is asked, where do we go after we type the numbers in? So if we're in stat and we hit enter, we put all of our numbers in, both the columns, go to stat again, arrow over to calculate, and then we want this formula, this AX plus B, or basically our slope-intercept formula. When we do that, it should give us the A and the B that we need to fill in the gaps. We don't have a B, so it's 0. And we plug in 1.1, which is the same thing as 11 over 10. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So there's a couple of ways you could have found that one. We also talked about how you could have done the difference in the Y over the difference in X, or the change in Y over change in X. So you could have done it that way as well. All right, number 5, which equation represents a line that is parallel to the line Y equals 3X minus 7? Now, habit. Coach Williams, as soon as he sees parallel, what does he write out here to the side? Hopefully somebody's going to remember this. When I see parallel, I put same slope. All right, same slope. Because if I'm looking for an equation that's parallel to another equation, the first thing I'm going to look for, does it have the same slope? Well, what is the slope in this equation? Slope is what? Positive 3. And rather quickly, I can determine my answer because there's only one equation that has a positive 3 in my answer choices, and that is answer choice what? B. I see this positive 3 right there, positive 3 right there. Those two lines have to be parallel to each other because they have the same slope. Okay? Everybody good with that one? Okay, number 6. Julio's wages vary directly as the number of hours that he works. If his wages for 5 hours were $39.25, how much will he earn for 30 hours? And this one's pretty logical. Most people can do this without really setting up a formula, but I want to give you the formula in just a minute just to make sure you understand it. But everybody knows, well, he works 5 hours, he makes $39.25, so I'm just going to divide $39.25 by 5 to get his hourly rate. Then I'm just going to multiply that times 30 to find out how much he would make whenever he works 30 hours. And that's basically the same thing we're doing when we do this direct variation thing, setting up proportions. Okay? If I made $39.25 by working 5 hours, that ratio or hourly rate is the same when I work 30 hours. So how much money am I going to make up here, right? How much money we'll call Y. We'll say Y. How much money am I going to make there if I work 30 hours? Well, this is the formula for what you already know how to do. So let's work this thing out for a minute. If I've got two fractions across the equal sign, I can cross multiply those, right? So I'll have 5y on one side, 3925 times 30, and watch how I'm going to do this. I'm not going to multiply them in yet because I'm going to divide both sides by 5, so I get y by itself, or the total amount of money I'm going to make. And look at what we have. If you break this down, I have 39.25 divided by 5 to tell me how much I make per hour times the 30 hours, and that's going to give me my total amount that I'm going to make. All right, so this is the same thing we already knew to do. When we calculate this out, we end up getting $235 or $235.5, but if we put that into money form, that's $235.50. Okay, and this happens to be one that we would have bubbled in, so that would be a bubbled in answer choice that you'd have to do on your Scantron. We'll just write it in here for now. All right, we've got another one that is a varies directly problem. Okay, so we're going to have 8 over 24 or 24 over 8. It doesn't matter how you want to put it. The ratios will be the same as long as you keep the y's on top on both sides or the x's on top on both sides. It doesn't matter. Let's say it's 24 over 8. So it's y over x. Then we're going to have, what's the value of x when y is 6? Now, rather quickly again, pretty fast, we can see that, what's 24 divided by 8? 3, right? So I'm going to write this down. That's the same thing as 3, and 6 divided by what gives me 3? 2. So we should know right off the bat, 2 is going to be my answer. Now, if I wanted to cross multiply these, I could say, okay, doing cross multiplication, 48 on one side, 24x on the other, divide by the 24, divide by 24, and we know that x is going to equal 2. So you could have arrived at the same answer doing your cross multiplication or just comparing the two fractions, and we know the numbers are small enough we can find out that x is just 2. Okay, so there is number 7. Number 8, and again, I know we're going through this rather quickly, but this is, again, these are review problems from previous chapters, and if you're watching the video, then you can stop this and, you know, rewind, repeat, slow it down, speed it up, however you need to do it. Horatio's math teacher assigned 50 homework problems. The table below compares the number of homework problems Horatio has completed to the percentage of homework he has yet to do. Now, you need to pay attention to this one. This, again, is another one we could use the stat button on. Let's do that. Let's try that first because I want you to remember how to use the stat. We're going to edit. This is a list, right? My X and Y list. So I'm going to go to Stat. I'm going to edit my list. I'm going to go ahead and let's go clear these out. If you arrow up to the L1 or L2s and hit clears and hit enter, it'll clear those lists out for you without having to go back and actually clear the list from your menu. Okay, so I'm going to put in 5, 15, 24, 30, and 35. Okay, then I'm going to put in 90, 70, 52, 40, and 30. All right, then I'm going to go back to Stat, arrow over to Calculate, and hit Enter. Go down and calculate this one, and you'll notice that that my, well, I have a lot more information than I needed to do because I pushed the wrong button. Hold on. Calc, Lin Regress, let's do it one more time. Okay, there we go. That's what it's supposed to be like. Push the wrong button there. Okay, so my slope should be what? Let me darken this up. You can see a little better. My slope should be a -2. A -2. So which one is my answer choice for that? F. -2. So I did that in the calculator. Pretty simple. Let's go back and let's do it on paper. Okay? Algebraically, we know that the slope is a change in y over the change in x. What is the change in all of these from x to x value and from y to y value? Well, this one's 10, and that's 20, and that's actually negative 20 because it's decreasing, right? This happens to be 9. This one is 6, and that is 5. The change here is a negative 18. This is a negative 12, and that's a negative 10. Now, let's just pick a couple of them and put the change in y over the change in x. We get negative 20 over 10. What's that equal? Negative 2, right? Negative 2. What is negative 18 over 9? Negative 2. So our constant rate of change here is a negative 2, even if we did it mathematically, or manually, we could find that slope is a negative 2. So we could do it in the calculator, and we could do it manually, and we both the answers would be the same. Negative 2 should be our slope that best fits this data. Okay, let's look at number 9. On number 9, we're asked again to find the slope, but this time we're looking for a slope that represents that's represented in this equation. This is not in standard form, but it's not in slope-intercept form, but it's close to slope-intercept form. We just need to get this y by itself. How would I do that? Divide by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. The 2's will become a 1. This leaves me with y. Y equals 5 divided by 2x plus 2. And really at this point, I'm just looking for the slope. So I don't really have to worry about what's left on the outside. What is my slope? 5 over 2. And so that is C. Easy enough. Okay, looking at number 10. The height of a golf ball hit into the air is modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t plus 48t, where h represents the height in feet, t represents the number of seconds, blah, 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 gibberish, 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 fluff, fluff, fluff. And we'll talk about that with STAR tests. There's a lot of fluff that they add in questions too. Just get to what you need to know so you're not confused about the rest of it. Here's my equation. What do they want to know? Height. So they want to know h. When t equals 2 seconds, right? So when t equals 2, what's the height? Okay, I got it, coach. No problem. I'm going to say h is equal to negative 16, and t is supposed to be a 2. Okay, so I'm going to put a 2 for t, square it, 48 times t, but I'm putting a 2 there. And then I'm just going to solve this on the calculator. H is going to equal 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times negative 16, negative 64. 48 times 2, 96. H equals, when I do my math here, a positive 32. Positive 32 feet. Okay? If I didn't want to do that on the manually on paper, I could do that in the calculator. Watch this. Y equals. Clear out that other function. I'm going to put this function in instead. Okay? I'm going to put in a negative 16 x squared. We can just put an x in for t, right? X squared plus 48x. Again, just using x instead of t. All right? And then I'm going to go to my table. Second graph takes me to the table. What value of t am I looking for? 2. So I'm going to go down to 2. And what is my height? 32. Again, calculator, new best friend. Right? New best friend. This is basically, I know I was your best friend, but, the calculator is now your new best friend. All right? This is just like having Coach Williams with you taking the test. Okay, here we go. I'm just kidding. But better. Oh, okay. All right. Now we're starting to hurt feelings now, okay? All right, so a population of wolves in a county is represented by the equation population over time, right? Over time, t, population in regards to time, is represented 80 times 0.98 raised to the value of t, where t, now this is important, where t is the number of years since 1998. What will the number of wolves in the county or the population be in 2012? How many years is that? What is T going to equal in 2012? 14. Okay, we're number of years since 98. Well, there's 12 till 2000, right? And then there's 2 more to get back to 98. So T equals 14. Now again, I can do this manually. I say manually. I could just multiply everything out on the calculator, right? I could find out what that is. That's P at 14 years, right? And I could do that on the calculator. Type that in if I wanted to. Okay, it's going to be 60.29 something to whatever. Now, can you have 0.29 of a wolf? No. So you got to go back to the nearest whole wolf, and it's going to be 60. Right? If I multiply that out, I end up with 60.2 something, blah, 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 blah. But I can't have a partial part of a wolf here. Now, I could also do this. I could go to y equals. I could put in 80. Parentheses, 0.98, raise that using the little rooftop symbol, raise that to the value of x, in this case, instead of t, right? So that's what it looks like on the calculator now. And then I could go second graph, and I'm looking for 14, right? So I'm going to go down here till t equals 14. I'm looking for 14, calculator's pretty slow. And look right there, I get my 60.291. So again, the calculator can help you solve this one rather quickly just by typing this into y equals and evaluating it at the number 14. All right, number 12. Solve the following systems of equations. Solve the following system of equations. Now, in this one, see what you think. I have a 2x minus y equals negative 7, 4x minus y equals negative 11. I have 2 coefficients that are the same for the same variable, right? So what could I use here to solve this system? What method? How does elimination sound? Right? Can we eliminate a variable? What if I subtracted the bottom one from the top? Right? I'm going to subtract everything in there, which means I'm going to change the sign of everything there. So it'll be a negative 4, a positive y, and a positive 11 when I change the sign, right? Go ahead and get rid of that now because I changed the sign to everything in there. So 2x minus 4x is a negative 2x. A negative y plus y is a 0. I'm not even going to write it down. That's going to equal negative 7 and 11, which is a 4. So now I'm going to get x by itself. I'm going to divide by negative 2. Boom, boom. X is going to equal 4 divided by negative 2, which is negative 2. Now, it may not be this easy on the test. I don't know, but right now it is. What's the only answer that has x equal to a negative 2? F. So I didn't even have to take that, plug it back in to find y. Okay, so that is how you should do it algebraically using methods for systems of equations. But you know what else you could have done? You could have taken this point, put it in here, see if it made the equation true. If I put in a negative 2 and put a 3, do I get negative 7? And if I do it on one, it has to work for both of them. So I'll put a negative 2 in for x on the second equation, put a 3 in for y, I should get a negative 11. And I do, if I work those out. Okay, let's look at number 13. Solve the system of equations. This one already has y set up to where we could just substitute that thing right in. So we're going to do substitution. We're going to solve by substitution on this one. 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 6 equals negative 19. All right, I'm going to distribute the negative 4 into the equation, which is going to give me 3x minus 8x minus 24 equals negative 19. I'm going to combine like terms right here, and I'm going to move this to the other side, which means I'm going to add 24 to both sides. So now I'm going to have a negative 5x, right? And then it's going to equal a positive 5 divide by -5. X is going to equal -1. Again, they've made it easy for us because there's only one X value with a -1, and that is C. Now I could plug this back in to find a Y value if I needed to, but at this point they gave us the answer. -1 is the only one I have to find. All right, let's finish up the last two. Number 14, which equation of the line, what is an equation of the line that passes through the point 0, 4 and is perpendicular to the line whose equation is -1x plus 3. Now, when I see perpendicular, first thing I'm doing is writing out here to the side, opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal, which means I'm going to take my slope and I'm going to do something parallel to that, which means I'm going to just flip it and change the sign. So it's a +2. And rather quickly again, I'm going to see there's only one answer choice that has a +2, and it's right there. So F is my answer. If you'll notice too, they gave us another hint. That is a y-intercept. That is B. When x is 0, you find your y-intercept. So we know it had to be a +4. Well, we found the 2. We knew it was +4. It had to have been F. Last one, number 15, is an inequality. Which inequality best represents the graph? It's all the shaded region above the line, and above the line means y has to be greater than. It's also a solid line, and because it's a solid line, it means it can equal the equation. And they made it nice for us by giving us all 2x plus 3 so we didn't have to find the equation of the line. So now, which one is my answer choice? If I'm going to be above it or equal to the line, I'm going to be C. Okay? All right, I hope this has helped you guys for your review on the test we're about to take, and then also kind of get you some preparation for the STAR test that's coming up. Be sure you study, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.